First and foremost, Kristaps Porzingis, his press conference yesterday. I don't know if it was gamesmanship. I don't know if Porzingis was being 100% honest. If Porzingis was being 100% honest, he ain't 100%. I don't know what percentage he is. But he's walking around with the kinesio tape on, and he seemed pretty unsure of himself as far as being 100%, being able to run, a full game, and if he's going to play. He even kind of, he said that's the plan. But if you're watching that press conference yesterday with Kristaps, I don't think you're super confident that he's 100%. And I don't think you can be confident in the idea that he's going to play much more than like 20 minutes a game. I've said, however, that if you do get an 80 to 85% Porzingis for 20 to 25 minutes a game, then that's a gigantic impact on this series and a tremendous help for the Celtics. But who knows? This might be a situation where Porzingis goes out there and tries to play, and after the first game he says, nope, don't feel comfortable. So we got to keep an eye on it. I would not take it for granted whatsoever that he's available, quote unquote. That presser did not instill a lot of confidence. Hopefully it's gamesmanship, and he goes out there and looks like Kristaps in game 1 tomorrow night. All right. We begin with the Celtics offense here. It's a very simple idea, but a very important idea. Jason Tatum. If Tatum can shoot well in this series, the series is over. Simple as that. If Jason Tatum can be a more efficient offensive player in this series than he's been throughout this playoff run, the Celtics win the series. There's no doubt in my mind. Tatum has shot 44% from the field and 29% from three during this postseason. Before this postseason, Tatum shot 44% from the field. If you think that's a very low percentage, I would tell you that in postseason basketball, we've been through this a little bit on prior pods. Postseason basketball, much more difficult than regular season basketball. 7-game series, a lot of film being watched. Teams understand your tendencies, and they understand what they can do to make players, even the very best players, less effective at what they do. So 44%, yes, it's lower than you would hope if we're talking about regular season, even postseason. If he's shooting around 46, 47%, then you feel much better about it. But Tatum, before this postseason, was a 44% shooter from the field. This postseason, he's a 44.2% shooter from the field. The big difference with Tatum has been from three. That's the issue. Tatum needs to hit more threes. He needs to be more efficient from three-point land. More catch and shoot, less pull-up attempts. Tatum, again, this postseason is shooting 29% from three. Before this postseason, in his playoff career, Tatum shot 36% from three. That is a huge drop. There's a gigantic difference between 29% and 36% from three. If you get Tatum shooting around 35, 36% from three-point land in this series, Dallas is going to give up a ton of points. Ton of points. Michael Pina from The Ringer wrote about Tatum shooting. Several numbers from this playoff run aren't pretty. After making 43% of his spot-up threes during the regular season, Tatum's just at 27.6% in the playoffs. According to Synergy, Tatum's ISO plays that end in a shot, turnover, drawn foul, or pass that then leads to a shot, Boston generates only 0.86 points per possession. Those numbers are atrocious. 39.4% field goal effective percentage. Atrocious. And Pina writes that the film is a bunch of mid-range jumpers, step-back threes, and rush drives into the teeth of a set defense. Most of these plays begin after the defense switches a screen and gives Tatum the matchup he wants. Often in these playoffs, that hasn't mattered. So they're getting these switches. And thank you to Mark Barton for the super chat. I appreciate it. Appreciate your support. Thank you, Mark. So Tatum in ISO has been very inefficient during this playoff run. From three, he's been awful. So if he can play better and more efficient offensive basketball from a shooting standpoint, this series is going to look much different. Here's the good news. Pina writes, that doesn't mean that Tatum can't feast over the next couple of weeks. Pina writes, a lot of the shots Tatum gets are looks he converted quite comfortably this season. When he finds a zone, gets to his spot, and either rises unbothered over a smaller defender or overpowers him in the paint, Boston looks unbeatable. The shots just haven't fallen in this postseason like they have in the past. And this really highlights a point that I've made on Twitter. If you want to follow me, it's at Nick C Radio. This highlights a point that I've made throughout this playoff run. I don't think Tatum's looks have been as bad as people think that they've been. I don't think Tatum's shooting percentages are a direct correlation between the types of shots that he's taking consistently. Have there been games where Tatum settles? Absolutely. Have there been quarters where he settles? Absolutely. That happens. But I think overall, big picture, he's made the right play an awful lot in this postseason run. The shots just have not fallen. So Pina writes, last year, Tatum's effective field goal percentage as an isolation scorer was 59.6%. Again, compared to 39.4% in this playoff run. Tatum generated a whopping 121.5 points per 100 possessions on plays that included a pass. A hot streak from one of the game's most prolific scorers would doom Dallas. Absolutely. So Tatum is struggling shooting, but he's not necessarily struggling shooting because he's taking a bunch of terrible shots. He's missing shots that he usually makes for the most part. There are going to be some settled threes. There are going to be some shots that make you want to pull your hair out. But if the same shot profile that Tatum's had for the majority of this postseason run, if that same shot profile exists in this series and Tatum reverts back to what he's been for the most part, especially over the past couple of years, as a shooter, then Tatum's numbers should be much better. And if you think about Tatum, who is, averaging, I'd say, 25, 10, and 6 during this playoff run, he was 30, 10, and 6 in the Eastern Conference Finals. If Tatum could be more efficient against Dallas, we're talking about ridiculous numbers. It's an if. But if those shooting percentages go up and Tatum continues to play the way he's played in this postseason, we're going to see a monster finals from Jason Tatum. If the shooting numbers improve. If Tatum shoots well, the Mavericks have no answer. If they try to double Tatum, that opens up rotations on the Dallas defensive side, right? Because now you're playing 4-on-3. Same idea for the Celtics defense. If you double Luka, you're now allowing Luka to pick you apart 4-on-3. If Tatum is dominating 1-on-1 and if he's more efficient in isolation, the Mavericks, if they react by doubling Tatum, he's going to murder them because his playmaking is at a much higher level now than it's ever been. If they double Tatum, he's going to turn this series into a 4-on-3 for the Celtics. And the Mavericks do not have nearly enough defenders to allow that to happen. If the Mavs are stuck 4-on-3 against White, Holiday, Brown, and Porzingis, or Horford as that fourth guy, they don't have enough defenders to consistently stop those guys. So Dallas would not have any answers. They've got to hope that Tatum continues to shoot the way he has shot throughout this postseason run. They've got to hope that he settles for more shots and misses those shots. Because if you get an efficient Tatum with the shot profile that we've seen for the most of this run, Dallas has no answer. If you leave him 1-on-1, he's going to toast you if he's shooting well. If you try to overreact and give extra coverage towards him, he's going to kill you as a playmaker. It's pretty similar to Luka stuff. Luka could kill you 1-on-1. We know that, right? And I said yesterday, if I'm the Celtics, let Luka score 35. Just don't let the other guys go off. You can't do that against the Celtics. The difference is the Celtics have a much deeper offensive repertoire, not only from a shot profile and versatility aspect, but also from a talent aspect. If you go full throttle, Tom Werner, shout out, to try to stop Tatum, what are you going to do against Brown? What are you going to do against Holiday? What are you going to do against White? If Porzingis is out there, what are you going to do against Porzingis? So you can't go all out, right? So the Celtics, offensively, if Tatum is making these shots, Dallas, I don't think, has any answer for it. And then if you force Tatum, the playmaker, to come out, he's going to hurt you. Because the Celtics are going to force. Don't get it twisted. The Celtics are going to force the switch. They're going to force Luka to defend Jason Tatum. They are going to force Luka to defend Jaylen Brown. They are going to force Kyrie Irving to play both those guys. They are going to force those switches. And if the Celtics force Luka to play against Tatum, guess what? Dallas is going to have to double, even though they don't want to, because they don't want Luka having to defend Tatum for 25, 30 possessions a game, or however many the Celtics can get that matchup on. So as soon as you see that Luka versus Tatum matchup, Dallas is sending an extra guy. And then that opens the door for Tatum to create for his teammates. It opens the door for a lot of different opportunities 4-on-3. That's why the Celtics will attack Luka. They are going to attack him defensively. They are going to wear him down. Luka is going to have to deal with Derek White's quickness. He's going to have to deal with JB and JT's overall offensive game and play strength. He's going to have to deal with post-ups against Porzingis and or Al. Make him work. And also make Kyrie Irving work. Every time Kyrie Irving is defending Jrue Holiday, I want Jrue Holiday down in the paint posting up. I want Holiday posting up. I want Tatum and Brown on switches and cross matches if you run with the basketball. I want Tatum and Brown to force Irving down in the paint because Irving has no chance to stop either of those guys down in the paint. He doesn't have a chance to stop, I don't think, Jrue Holiday when Holiday posts. Let's not even talk about Porzingis. And Dallas's defense, they are good at rim protection, but they are not very good at defending post-ups. So let's keep an eye on that. When the Celtics get a switch that they like, I would not be surprised if you see many times throughout a game that Celtic getting down into the paint. Not so much against Luka unless it's Porzingis or Al, because Luka is big. He is physical, right? But if you see Kyrie, if you see even Derek Jones Jr., if you see those guys getting stuck with more, with bigger and more physical Celtics players, Celtics are going to get down in that paint and they're going to post up. They should. Because Dallas is not very good dealing with post-ups. Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, those guys are shot blockers. They're rim protectors. On help defense, they will roll over and they will block a shot. But when you talk about 1 through 5 dealing with post-ups, it's an issue for Dallas. And Dallas is going to have to deal with that depth I talked about from the Celtics offense. It's something they haven't faced during this postseason. You had James Harden and Paul George in round 1. We all know James Harden shows up for like 1 out of every 3 playoff games. George has been a little in and out throughout his career. Kawhi was not himself for the game and a half of the 6 games that he played in that series. So defensively, they didn't have to deal with 4 or 5 guys that can burn you. Against Oklahoma City had a hell of a time shooting the basketball. They just had a bad series missing shots. We're talking wide open shots. We're talking open shots. And they don't have 4 or 5 guys that can shoot at a single time on the floor. Minnesota, it was Anthony Edwards or bust. Towns is not consistent. He melts down at times. So when Dallas is defending those 3 teams, they don't have to worry about 4 or 5 guys beating them. With the Celtics, they do. So if you're Dallas, you could hide Luka Doncic on McDaniels in the corner right? You could hide Luka Doncic on some of the other OKC guys that aren't great shooters. You're not going to be able to hide Luka Doncic in this series, and you're not going to be able to hide Kyrie Irving. And Doncic and Irving, as much as we talk about them playing better defensively than they have in the past, they're still not great defenders. They're still not very good defenders against some of the best offensive players. Going against Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum is a different world versus a Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those guys are not even close. They're not in the same universe as Brown and Tatum. So you're not going to be able to hide if you're Irving and Doncic in this series. And you're not going to be able to hide even if you're going against White and Holiday. Derek White and Drew Holiday could absolutely eat in this series. Derek White, when he takes at least 12 field goal attempts in a game, the Celtics were 28-6 during the regular season. They're 9-0 in the playoffs when White takes at least 12 shots. The Celtics are 33-1 this year when Drew Holiday scores 14-plus points. So you don't have to just worry about Tatum and Brown. You got to worry about everybody on the floor. Sam Hauser should be better in this series because Indiana Dallas doesn't play as fast as Indiana. It's going to be a little bit more of a methodical pace, which fits Hauser much better. So Dallas does not have the convenience of we only have to worry about one guy, maybe at the most two guys. And that changes the entire structure of the defense. Pace is going to be important. Celtics have to push the pace. Again, Dallas is very methodical. Luka is very methodical in his approach. Speed them up. If you run on offense, you're going to create a lot of cross matches, and Dallas is not good defending cross matches. I also want to see the Celtics go fast because if they start their offensive action early in the clock, that forces Dallas to try to come up with multiple stops, right? They have to make multiple rotations. They have to stay incredibly disciplined. So start your offensive action with 18 on the shot clock instead of 10 on the shot clock. Drive and kick, then drive and kick. You get the closeout, attack the closeout. Kick it out, attack another closeout. But start your action early and have that pace so you force Dallas to have to stay disciplined all around the floor defensively. KP's impact, we've talked about this a little bit. If Lively switches onto the ball handler, Porzingis is going to post up the wings and guards, and he's going to kill him if he's healthy. Efficient buckets from Porzingis. Here are some numbers. The starting five with Porzingis. 120.3 points per 100 possessions. They scored 120.3 points per 100 possessions with Porzingis on the floor. They scored 118.5 with Al on the floor. So this offense is almost 2 points better per 100 possessions with Porzingis. Defensively, entirely different story. Defensively, with Porzingis, the Celtics gave up 109.4 points per 100 possessions. With Al, 115.8. So almost 6 more points per 100 possessions given up with Al on the floor than KP. That's why Porzingis is big in this series, if he can give you 20 to 25 minutes. John Hollinger wrote this at The Athletic. The Mavericks tend to concede pick and pop threes to centers. Another reason why KP would be huge. Because KP's ability to make threes, but also Porzingis' ability with the depth of threes. He's going to be, he can take a 26-footer, 27-footer and knock it down. That makes it very difficult against the pick and pop if Porzingis is 26, 27 feet away, because now the defender has to make up that extra space. You also have Porzingis in the spot-up game. He's out there offensively, he's spotting up. He's going to pull the defender towards him. If he's just standing there from 18 feet, the defender has to be with Porzingis 18 feet. If he's at 25 feet, if he's not involved in the pick and roll action, and you just have Porzingis spotting up, guess what? His defender has to stay right there with Porzingis, which creates driving lanes for Brown, Tatum, White, and Holiday. Jason Timpf at the volume pointed this out, that Porzingis' spot-up game causes almost more issues than his pick-and-pop game. Opposing bigs have to honor him. Expect lots of threes in this series. If you don't like lots of threes, don't watch the finals. Boston was number 1 in catch and shoot threes. Well, scratch that. Hold on before we get ahead. Celtics were number 1 in three-pointers made. Dallas was number 3 in three-pointers made this year. Boston was number 1 in the NBA in three-point attempts. Dallas was number 3 in the NBA in three-point attempts. Now, Dallas has taken less threes since the trade deadline because they changed their team structure, right? They brought in bigger players. But they will still take a good amount of threes. And the Celtics, I think, are going to take a ton of threes in this series. The difference is catch and shoot threes. Boston, number 1 in the NBA in catch and shoot threes. Dallas was 20th in the league. We know that Jason Tatum loves pull-ups, but so does Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic loves pull-ups. He loves difficult shots. He settles an awful lot, especially from 3. In the Mavs, they've had some three-point luck in the playoffs. Michael Pina in the ringer, he went through this. Oklahoma City did not shoot well at all compared to how they shot during the year. Lou Dort especially stunk from 3. Giddey can't throw it in the ocean. You don't even have to play Giddey beyond 15 feet. Chet Holmgren couldn't make a shot. Holmgren shot 6 for 27 from three-point land with the pick and pop after Holmgren had been really good in the pick and pop all year long. He fell off a cliff. This could be all about 3s versus 2s. Dallas's defense has been very good in the paint, again, because they have those rim protectors. Teams are shooting less than 60% at the rim in the playoffs. Great rim protection. This could be the Celtics taking 40, 45 threes a game and trying to make it as tough as possible for Luka and Kyrie to hit mid-range jump shots and step back tough contested threes. So it goes back to the math, which Joe Mazzulla has talked about a ton. Don't overlook the free throw margin. Dallas does not shoot a ton of free throws. The Celtics do not foul a ton. So that could be a difference maker. The Celtics should have more free throws attempted than Dallas in this series, therefore should make more free throws than Dallas makes in this series. And every little margin counts. If the Celtics play right on the offensive side of the ball, if they approach things the right way, they will score points against Dallas. They will score a good amount of points against the Mavericks defense if they play right.